There are some disadvantages of cross-sectional studies. Because it is a measurement at one point in time, it is difficult to derive causal relationships, and these studies are prone to certain biases. This particular quantitative cross-sectional study investigates the pre-hospital management of patients with a suspected seizure. Its aim was to quantify the number of emergency calls for suspected seizures, the associated cost, the patient's characteristics, their management, and immediate outcome. The data used in this study was collected by initially extracting routine data from the Yorkshire Ambulance Service database between the 1st of April 2012 and the 31st of March 2013. From this information, the researchers extracted geographical, diurnal, and monthly variations of incidents, as well as the time of day the calls were made. For example, they identified that of the 605,481 calls made, 19,799 were for suspected seizures. This identifies the incidence of seizures at 3.3%, the seventh most common call type. Researchers then isolated and analysed the patient report forms from a 1-month period that reflected a typical month in terms of workload. The chosen month was May 2012. To maintain patient confidentiality, patient identifiable data was removed from the report form by the Yorkshire Ambulance Service prior to the data being provided to the research group. A data extraction tool developed by the authors and revised after a pilot study was used to extract standard and descriptive statistics from the patient report forms. This tool was applied to 178 cases. There were a total of 132 incidences that were then analysed in detail. 24 incidences were excluded due to inadequate data or being a host call, and another 22 were excluded due to no evidence of seizures, with alternate diagnoses including syncope, intoxication, tremors, falls, rigors, or panic attacks. The patient report forms for these 130 cases were examined and classified by neurologists. Using extrapolated data, clinical details of the cases were quantitatively analysed. The researchers identified the number of the cases where the patient was seizing on arrival and whether the patients had subsequent seizures. They also included percentages of patients with airway patency, breathing difficulties, and cardiac abnormalities. In addition, they quantitatively assessed the patient outcomes. This included the number of patients transported to hospital, number of cases where individuals were left at home against medical advice, as well as those referred to alternative medical services. Finally, the costs were analysed. This service evaluation was approved by the Yorkshire Ambulance Service, and ethics were approved by the University of Sheffield Ethics Committee. The study received no outside funding or grants from any sector.